Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Stockholm and ISDP. Now, out located here at beautiful Stallmästargården and this beautiful weather. My name is Mats Engman. I'm head at the Korea Center at ISDP, and we're very happy to welcome you to this workshop that we have co-organized with our partners KWDI, exploring work-life balance through a gender lens, insights from the Nordics and South Korea. Before we start our conference and deliberations, I would like to offer the opportunity to President Kim from KWDI to say a few words, and also to our director, Niklas Svanström. So, President Kim, please.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, esteemed speakers and colleagues, it is my great honor to welcome you all to today's one-day workshop on exploring work-life balance through a gender lens, insights from the Nordics and South Korea. On behalf of the Korea Women's Development Institute, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all participants who have gathered there, as well as to our co-host, the Institute for Security and Development Policy, for making this important event possible. With an urgent parliamentary schedule, I became participating in this event via online, so I hope you understand. Work-life balance has become an increasingly significant issue in our societies. As our economies and workplaces evolve, the ability to balance professional responsibilities with personal well-being is now a crucial factor in fostering both individual fulfillment and societal progress. South Korea faces pressing demographic and labor market challenges that make this issue ever more urgent. To overcome serious low birth rate, South Korea has identified work-life balance as a key national agenda and has made significant efforts in recent years. For example, parental leave policies have been enhanced, particularly by expanding the duration of parental leave with a strong emphasis on encouraging fathers to take parental leave. Additionally, efforts have been made to increase the amount of payment and flexibility in use. Despite these advancements, challenges remain. Achieving a broad societal consensus on financial sustainability of these policies, as well as ensuring that individuals who currently struggle to access or utilize these benefits are adequately supported, are crucial tasks. Meanwhile, the Nordic countries, widely recognized for their progressive policies in gender equality, continue to refine their approaches to address emerging challenges. We all know that achieving true work-life balance remains an unequal challenge, particularly when viewed through a gender perspective. Traditional gender roles, caregiving responsibilities, and systematic barriers still place a disproportionate burden on women, limiting their professional and personal growth. Today's workshop brings together leading experts from South Korea and the Nordic countries, two regions with different yet insightful approaches to gender equality and work-life balance. This workshop is not just about discussing challenges. It's about seeking solutions and actionable strategies that will enable individuals, families, businesses, and the governments to move forward together. I encourage all of you to engage in today's discussions with a collaborative spirit so that we can work toward a future where everyone, regardless of gender, can thrive both professionally and personally. Thank you all once again for your participation and commitment to this important conversation. I look forward to the enriching discussions ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim.
Thank you.
And please, Niklas.
Well, just to reinforce what President Kim has just said, this is a very, very important topic. First of all, I would like to thank also KWDI for the collaboration. We have had a very long collaboration, very interesting collaboration that started pre-pandemic. So we actually had some very interesting projects with North Korea, South Korea on gender issues. We had visiting fellows from both North and South at ISDP. And of course, this was an issue that I thought was important to discuss cross-border. And it was actually, I think, quite successful. And KWDI was, I think, instrumental in this. And we're very much grateful for that collaboration. So my warmest thanks to KWDI and President Kim, but also I would like to extend my thanks to our own staff as well. Of course, Mats organizing this, but also for Tove, Anna, Josephine, and Synne, who has been organizing this event, but also, of course, to all the staff at KWDI. We do have, President Kim was mentioning the Nordics as a good departure point, and I'm grateful that this is mentioned, but I do think that even as a Nordics, we have a long way to go. I mean, we are better equipped in many ways when it comes to daycare centers and legislation, etc. But I think we also have to be realistic and honest that even the Nordics have a long way to go. And we're struggling to improve this work-life balance. And as I think it's been unequal for many years, and it continues to be unequal in terms of dual work. Women who actually has a full-time job, which is needed in the Swedish context and Nordic, but carries the bulk of the work at home as well. So even if comparatively seen, I think the Nordics has certain advantages. We're far from perfect. And this is where it's very important to have the insights from others. And the KWDI is an important partner for us because it also highlights our own deficits and what we can strengthen and work on. So for us, a partnership with our Korean friends is instrumental also to improve our conditions and our situation. So for us, this is a great opportunity to exchange views. And I'm looking very much forward to this conference. And as a student of all these fantastic presenters, I hope to gain some insights that hopefully I can also implement in my own little context. So thank you, Mats, for this, and I will leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Niklas. After these two opening remarks, we are ready to get to the gist of it, to start our conference in proper. And I would like to hand over the podium to Dr. Ji-soo Yoon, who is the Director for Center for International Development and Cooperation at KWDI. So please, Ji-soo, take the floor.
Thank you much. Hello, everyone. My name is Ji-soo Yoon, and as I've been introduced, I am now serving as the Director for International Development and Cooperation at the Korean Women's Development Institute. Before we begin the session, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today in this meaningful event. And of course, I'd like to also thank the ISDP for co-organizing this workshop with us. And it's been some time. I think we started gathering ideas in order to organize this workshop since maybe sometime last fall. And the ISDP has been very supportive in making this event possible and in supporting the idea behind this workshop on work-life balance and how we want to engage in discussions to find ways to move forward and by exchanging ideas and experiences on this across borders. And so thank you for ISDP's support and dedication and assistance in organizing the workshop. And of course, as always, I'd like to thank the ISDP once again for this partnership that we have enjoyed between KWDI and ISDP over the years. And so thank you. And then that was a brief introduction. And without further ado, I'd like to now suggest that we begin the first session. And our first session is titled Work-Life Balance, Current Circumstances and Key Takeaways. And what we aim to do in this first session is to discuss on the evolution of work-life balance in the Nordic countries and in South Korea. And we wanted to discuss focusing specifically on two questions. The first question, what the gender-related challenges are to fostering work-life balance. And the second question to think about is what initiatives have been taken toward work-life balance and what lessons can be drawn, what insights can be drawn from these experiences. And now I would like to invite our first speaker. Our first speaker is Dr. Eun-ji Kim from the Korean Women's Development Institute. She is a senior research fellow who has developed extensive research record on this theme. And today, her presentation is titled Work-Life Balance in South Korea, Trends and Challenges of Parental Leave Policies. May I please invite Dr. Kim to begin her presentation.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this important event. I'm Eun-ji Kim, as introduced. I have been conducting research on family policies in Korea. I regret that, not being able to join you in person there in Sweden. I'd like to go, but I'm glad to meet you online. My presentation today is about work-life balance in South Korea. Work-life balance support policies cover a broad scope, but my presentation will be focused on the trends and challenges of parental leave policies. Nowadays, Korea is facing the issue of low birth rate and is implementing parental leave policy reforms in response. Today's presentation will cover the background and details of these policy reforms. Now let's begin. Next slide. Next slide.
Yes. Give us a minute.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, thank you. It's the background, the need for work-family balance support policies in South Korea. Next. South Korea has one of the lowest fertility rates in the world now. South Korea's TFR has continuously declined from 1.24 in 2015 to 0.72 in 2023. Yes, it's very low. And the number of births has fallen below 300,000 since 2020. It's very, very shocking in here, and everybody are shocked by the TFR figures. Let's move on. Yes. Actually, the decline in South Korea's birth rate is directly linked to young people's work-centered life orientation. You can see the M-shaped figures up there. Actually, career interruptions due to childbirth and childcare are decreasing in Korea. Many Korean women are increasingly choosing employment over child. You can see the employment rate of women in their early 30s has significantly decreased compared to 2010. Women are postponing family formation and childbirth, prioritizing their careers first. Next slide. However, career interruptions for women during the childcare period still persist in Korea. You can see some country cases here. In most OECD countries, such as Germany and like Sweden, women's age-specific employment rates resemble a U-shaped curve similar to that of men. Only Korea and Japan exist an M-shaped female employment pattern. Yes. So next slide. So let's move on to the parental leave scheme in South Korea. Next. The need for work-family balance support policies. The importance of work-family balance is increasingly emphasized here. The parental leave scheme has seen rapid policy developments to support working parents. Actually, it is one of the policies that has undergone the most significant changes in recent policy reforms in South Korea. Next. First, we will examine the maternity leave policy. This policy, maternity leave, allows expectant mothers to take time off from work before and after childbirth to ensure their health and well-being. It was first introduced as a foundation for parental leave policies. It was initially employer-funded, later partially covered by employment insurance to distribute financial responsibility. You can see the policy details here. Regarding eligibility, all pregnant employees are entitled to maternity leave, regardless of their employment type. In terms of duration, maternity leave lasts for 90 days and at least 45 days required to be taken after childbirth to ensure the mother's recovery. And let's see the financial benefits. In large companies, the employer covers 60 days while employment insurance pays for the remaining 30 days. And in small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, employment insurance covers the entire 90 days to reduce the financial burden on small businesses. The maximum monthly benefit is 2.1 million Korean won. It was approximately 66 of the average wage in South Korea. And the job protection is important. Employees must return to the same or equivalent position after leave. And additionally, dismissal during maternity leave is strictly prohibited by law. Next. And the other one is paternity leave. It allows fathers to take time off work to support the spouse and newborn child during the critical early days of parenting. This policy was established to increase fathers' involvement in childcare, promoting a more balanced sharing of responsibilities between parents. Over time, paternity leave has gradually expanded, offering longer leave periods and increased financial support, making it more accessible and beneficial for working fathers. Yes, thank you. You can see the policy details here. In terms of eligibility, all fathers whose spouse has given birth are entitled to paternity leave. And in terms of duration, father can take 10 days of leave, but it must be used within 90 days of childbirth. And the financial benefits, large companies, fathers are entitled to 20 days of fully paid leave by the employer. The duration was 20 days. It's error, sorry. In SMEs, employment insurance covers 5 days, and the employer pays for the remaining 15 days. And the maximum benefit is this one. It's under for 5 days under employment insurance. And the job protection are important aspect of paternity leave also. Employees cannot be dismissed or face disadvantaged for taking paternity leave. And it's the key policy of the parental leave schemes. Parental leave allows parents to take time off from work and to care for their child while ensuring job security. It was actually a successor to maternity leave in case of mother, allowing both parents to take time off. With gradual yet significant improvements in increasing income replacement rate and providing incentives for male participation. Yeah, parental leave is the key policy scheme. And let's look at the policy details. Parental leave is available to both mothers and fathers, so that both parents can take time off to care for their child. Parent can use parental leave until their child turns 8 years old. It's very long. And to qualify for parental leave benefits, employees must have been enrolled in employment insurance for at least 180 days. Parental leave can last up to 1 year per parent. Parents can take their leave one after the other or at the same time, depending on their needs. But they can get 1 year separately. So it's the characteristic of Korean policy. After parental leave, employees must be given their job back or a similar position. And this rules helps parents to take leave without worrying about losing their job. The policy helps parents balance work and family life while keeping their jobs secure. You can see very complex financial benefit scheme here. It's different at when you use the parental leave, how long you take it. First 3 months, parents receive 100% of their regular wage, but it has the maximum of 2.5 million Korean won per month, which is about 80% of the average wage in South Korea. From the 4 to 6 months, they continue to leave 100% of their wage, but the maximum amount is lower, 2 million Korean won per month, about 64 of the average wage %. And after the 7 months onward, the benefit is 80% of the wage, but it has the maximum of the 1.6 million Korean won per month, which is about only 50% of the average wage. Is very low. And to encourage both parents to take leave, South Korea has the 6+6 parental leave scheme. If both parents use parental leave, each get 6 months at 100% of their wage. The maximum benefit for this scheme ranges from 2.1 to 4.5 million Korean won per month. If you get longer together, then you can get more. So it's depend. It has very characteristic in Korean system. Next slide. And you can see the partial parental leave benefit. This policy allows parents to reduce their working hours instead of taking full leave while still keeping their job security and financial support. It was introduced to make the parental leave scheme more flexible and giving parents more options to balance work and childcare. With this system, employees can work fewer hours rather than stopping work completely, making it easier to manage both their job and the family responsibilities. Next. Thank you. So who can use partial parental leave, how long it takes, and its benefits? A partial parental leave is available to both mothers and fathers also. It can be used until the child is 12 years old. It's very long period. And duration, employees can take up to 2 years combined with full parental leave. So the total duration is up to 2 years. And the financial benefits, the first 10 reduced hours per day is 100% wage compensation. But remaining reduced hours, it's only 80% wage compensation. So the wage compensation is a lot higher here. And job protection, employees must allow employees to return full-time work when requested. And dismissal or disadvantageous treatment due to leave is prohibited. So this policy allows parents to reduce their working hours instead of taking full leave. Next. So let's look at some issues in the parental leave scheme and how policies are improving to addressing them. One of the major issue in parental leave scheme is coverage gaps. Currently in Korea, parental leave is only available to employees who can remain affiliated with a company. So you have to affiliate it with the company if you want to get the benefits. And to receive wage compensation, employees must also be eligible for employment insurance. This problem is that many workers are excluded from this system. Like freelancers, non-standard workers, and self-employment parents are not eligible for parental leave benefits. This gap in coverage make it difficult for many working parents to take time off for their childcare. Next slide. And another issue in parental leave scheme is income replacement inadequacy. Although the official replacement rate is 80%, in reality, the low benefit cap reduces actual wage replacement for many workers. And additionally, 25% of the benefit is paid only after the employee returns to work as an incentive for job continuity. However, this delayed payment system will be abolished this year. To address income concerns, a parental benefit was proposed as a flat rate universal alternative. This new benefit called parental benefit provides 1 million Korean won per month for age 1, age 0, the first year, and 500,000 Korean won per month for aged children aged 1. And it should have been designed as a worker-based parental leave benefit in terms of its amount and payment structure, but it was implemented as a child-based allowance, similar to child allowance. In Korea, the child allowance provides 100,000 Korean won per month until the child turns 7 years old. So the parent benefit has larger amounts, which led to policy confusion about its purpose and its role. Another issue in the parental leave scheme is the long leave duration and its impact on the workforce. Currently, the scheme allows for extended parental leave and further extensions are planned. While the total benefits are low, the low income replacement rate combined with a long leave period makes it harder for parents to return to work, especially for mothers. To address this, the government has introduced the policy response. The policy is being designed to increase the income replacement rate in early stages of parental leave. So you saw the complex structure of the benefits. However, the overall leave duration remains quite long in Korea, still here. Next slide. And it's very important to increase male participation. In South Korea, parental leave benefits are worker-based, not child-based, meaning that each parent has their own rights to take leave. Because of this, South Korea has one of the strongest systems for men in the OECD. But in reality, low income replacement rates and rigid work culture make it difficult for men to take parental leave. To encourage more fathers to participate, the government has introduced policy responses, as you saw, 6+6 scheme. Higher benefit rates for couples who take leave together under the 6 months and 6 months scheme. An expansion of paternity leave benefits to further support fathers in taking time off. These measures aim to make it easier and more financially viable for men to take part in childcare. Next. And low utilization in small and medium enterprises and small businesses in South Korea. Work is not systemically structured around tasks and time, while distributing work or hiring replacements difficult. Because of this, SMEs face even greater challenges than large corporations and public enterprises when it comes to granting parental leave. To address this issue, the government has introduced this kind of policy responses. Financial support for SMEs when employees take parental leave, and colleague workload sharing supports, which provides compensation for co-workers who take on extra work due to a leave taker's absence. And these measures aim to help small businesses manage employees' absences more effectively and support a better work-life balance. And improving flexibility in parental leave scheme. Partial parental leave allows workers to reduce their working hours instead of taking full leave, giving them more options to balance work and childcare. Actually, South Korea manages full-time parental leave benefit and partial parental leave benefits separately. Unlike European models, where they are more integrated. This separation limits flexibility and makes it harder for parents to adjust their leave based on their needs. So improve this system, policy needs to focus better integration of full-time and partial parental leave to support more flexible work arrangements. Let's summarize the key points and discuss what needs to be improved beyond parental leave scheme. We saw the importance of work-life balance is increasingly emphasized in Korea. And the parental leave scheme has rapidly evolved to support working parents. We have looked at 4 types of leave: maternity leave, paternity leave, parental leave, and partial parental leave. Next. And we saw the challenges and areas of improvement in a parental leave scheme. First, coverage gaps. Freelancers, self-employed, and non-standard workers are excluded. Second, the income replacement rate. The low benefit cap reduces actual wage replacement, and the long leave duration. Long extended leave can delay labor market return. Fourth, the male participation. Despite having strong policies for fathers, low income replacement rate and rigid work culture prevent many men from taking leave. And SME utilization. Small businesses struggle with workforce replacement. And lack of flexibility. Full-time and partial parental leave are managed separately. So addressing these issues is key to improving the effectiveness of the parental leave scheme and making more accessible for working parents. Next. The parental leave alone is not enough. Long working hours and rigid labor practices make it hard for parents to balance work and family. Actually, South Korea has one of the longest working hours in OECD countries, make it harder for parents to balance work and family. At the same time, remote work and flexible work arrangements are significantly less utilized in South Korea compared to other OECD countries. For the parental leave schemes to be fully effective, it must be supported by a reduction in overall working hours and more flexible labor practices. Improving these areas will help create a better work-life balance for parents and make parental leave policies more practical and accessible. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kim, for your presentation on the key components of the parental leave scheme in South Korea and the challenges associated with each. I'm sure you have many questions for her, but I'd like you to keep the questions until we're done with the presentations portion of the session. And so next, I would like to invite the second speaker of this session, Dr. Caroline de la Porta, professor of Copenhagen Business School. The title of her presentation today is Work-Life Balance, Current Circumstances and Key Takeaways. Please give her a big applause.
Thank you for the welcome. It's great to be here. I've been looking forward. Thank you also for the previous presentations and the overview of the reforms in Korea. I guess as always, policy design and policy is a necessary but not sufficient condition to lead to behavioral change. But there's still things in the policy design which can be fixed, as has already been highlighted. So I will, maybe I should sit like this, then I can see on the slides. Okay, so what I'm going to do is today just say a few words about myself, and then very briefly look at some of the literature and the perspectives the literature presents about work-life balance policy, some of the key developments in terms of labor market trends, Nordic policies and practices with a special focus on Denmark, which I know very well, the Danish case, and then some key lessons, but also some challenges ahead. Thank you. Okie dokie. So what can I do? Oh, here it's just okay, it's replicating. Okay, so so I've been working for many years on looking at how welfare states are changing, focusing increasingly on skills development among men and women, and this has been an enormous success. Women are in fact outperforming men in terms of educational attainment, and of course, when women have an education like men, they would like to be able to use it on labor market, and then sometimes the policies haven't followed. In the later years, I've been focusing on the Nordic model and social policies in the Nordic countries. And then I would like to draw your attention to this book here, Successful Public Policy in the Nordic Countries, which I edited with Nordic colleagues and also a Dutch colleague, which was interesting, which is about successful public policy in the Nordic countries. In there are cases about parental leave. There's a case on parental leave in Sweden by Sofia Sedstrand and Sofia Dovander. There's also a case on Icelandic parental leave. Iceland is also a pioneer in this area. And then there's a case that I've done with Trine Larsen on childcare in Denmark for the small children, 0 to 3-year-olds. And the book is publicly available. It's open access. It's wonderful that universities and publishers finally are making everything accessible. Okay, most of the time, people don't want to read it because it's very long and dry. But anyway, this is written, in fact, as a teaching kinds of cases with figures and an easily accessible framework. So the chapters are downloadable individually or the whole book. Yes, you can see if you would be interested in that. And currently I am so lucky to have a new research grant funded by the Velux Foundation, which is entitled Agile Work-Life Balance. Here you can see the key questions we ask in the project. So what are the priorities of men and women in work and life? And here we move beyond a only instrumental perspective of work-life balance, which focuses on space for work and space for care. Here we would also like to include space for life beyond care, which is not often included in the policy discussions. And then we look in the project at why are men still underrepresented in leave. We have a small focus on the EU Work-Life Balance Directive, and if it's leading to increases in take-up across EU countries. And then we are very interested in the firm level policies and practices. And we differentiate in the project between large, medium-sized, and small firms. Because, of course, if you have a perfect policy framework, but the firms are not on board, then it's very difficult to actually enable policies to be used more broadly. So there may be, as in Korea, in the Nordics as well, there is a differentiation between the larger companies and smaller companies. It's much smaller, it's more difficult for people who are self-employed or in SMEs to take leave, and there are the same challenges in terms of inclusion. So the self-employed are not included in the sheet. So these challenges are similar with Korea. And then we're also interested, when we're looking at the workplace, about how leaders hinder or activate or hinder or enable mothers and fathers to take leave. So the leaders and the HR department. So we will be doing some in-depth analyses across 4 European countries. Next slide, please. Okay, so of course, this is just a snapshot of some of the literature, but in general, as I mentioned already, in the feminist literature, there has been a focus on how education has fundamentally changed women's life courses over the last 30 to 40 years. And this means that there are alterations to the male breadwinner, female carer model. It's not necessarily a full dual earner model in all countries, but in any cases because women, they can, but also because of the household economy, it's most common that both men and women are working, at least to some extent. And then there's also the demographic challenge, which has been mentioned already, which it's present for Korea, but it's also present in the Nordic countries with an aging population and more pressure on those in employment to shoulder the costs associated with the welfare model. So, and already, as has been mentioned, men's life courses, they have changed, but not as much as women's. And so the care responsibility still is predominantly taken on by women. In social policy literature, there's a focus on which kinds of policies support family and which kinds of policies support changes in gender roles. The shorthand concepts of that are defamilization for focusing on early childhood education and care. And then there is degenderizing policy, which is focusing specifically on gender roles, where leave, as has also been mentioned, is a key instrument to change behavior and roles among mothers and fathers. But of course, for both of these policies, the policy design is important, and the model of political economy in which the policy is implemented is important to consider. And I say that also because in Korea there's a dual system with publicly supported, also childcare system, education system, and then the private. And as long as the system is dual, then that should be, I think, the point of departure for policy change, not only in parental leave, but also in early childhood education and care. Next slide. Okay, when we look at all the other kinds of, there's a lot of different literature focusing on work-life balance. There's also in labor market policy, there's a focus on reduced work, flexibility, and remote work, 4-day working weeks, which is a huge success in the UK and in Denmark. And now there is in the EU a judgment on registering working time. What I'm saying with this is that, so it means all employees are required to register their time so that all overtime can be compensated for economically or in terms of time. And this is, so essentially what this means is that people are spending less time working, and they would like more time to engage in care tasks and also to engage in life beyond care. And so this is basically a trend which has also been enhanced after the COVID-19 pandemic, when many people, they realize they don't only want to have their main identification through work, but identification through other aspects of life. So there are many things going on, and of course, policy has to somehow adapt to these new trends, while policymakers are focused on having as many people in the labor force as possible. And human resource and firm level literature is also significant. So the workplace is pivotal to enabling or hindering work-life balance policy. And if not only the formal workplace policies, but the informal workplace culture hinders, for example, fathers from taking leave, then this is a challenge, which should be addressed. We know, as also has been mentioned, there's a difference between large companies, especially large multinational corporations, and the resources they have, the possibilities also to be pioneers and trendsetters in terms of work-life balance. So they bring, as I discussed with Mads before the seminar, they bring this with them to the countries where they work, enabling the employees of those companies to follow Nordic type parental leave policies. Yet work-life balance policy is often a gendered concept. It focuses on the mother's right to take leave, but of course, increasingly, it's a moving target. Increasingly, father's right to take leave is also factored in. And then I'd like to mention the work of Yeon-Yin Kim, who has finished her PhD at Lund University, and where she looked at the propensity of Korean fathers to take leave in a Korean company in Sweden and in a Swedish company. And the propensity was higher in the Swedish company because the norms in the company were in place to enable fathers to take leave. And so of course, the workplace culture is one of the main hindrances, and there may be different kinds of initiatives that can be taken to challenge this. And then there is a literature which I've only recently become familiar with, which is the leisure literature, which focuses on what individuals, men and women, do in their free time, their leisure time, and distinguishing between family-based and autonomous leisure, and finding that here as well there are gender differences. So fathers are more likely to continue engaging in their autonomous literature, while women take the care responsibilities at home. And then mothers also have a tendency to not relax during family-based leisure because they are more concerned with everybody being in balance, all the children and so on. But in any case, I think for work-life balance to succeed, and because there is reluctance among young generations to have children, if they think it impedes upon their leisure time, then some policy thinking should also engage with space and possibilities for leisure. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, and then here, just in European countries, what we can see is that employment rates have never been higher. So men and women are working, but the actual working week has never been shorter. So the actual number of hours used in work. This is different from Korea, but in Korea, I also wonder whether it is the formal working week or the informal time spent at work. And whether it would be interesting to explore these informal expectations of workplace presence. So what we can see on the left-hand side of the chart, this is just a small extract from some Eurostat data labor force survey. We can see that women's employment actual number of working weeks on average is relatively stable, perhaps a slight increase, but mainly in Poland. While when we look at men, on the right-hand side of the graph, it is decreasing. The trend is decreasing in terms of the actual number of hours spent in work. And this is just from 2012. When you look in a longer time perspective, 100 years back as well, this is the trend. The trend is that people spend fewer number of hours at work, meaning they're spending more time in care, but also in life. So we should include this notion of life in work-life balance. Next slide, please. So essentially, men and women increasingly, both of them engage in paid work. For economic reasons, the economy of the household. Of course, gender differences in unpaid care persist, yet they decrease in countries with higher shares of well-paid leave reserved for fathers. And here again, I would like to reserve to the Icelandic case, where they have a very long share of the leave and they all use it. And this leads to not only sharing of tasks during leave, but even in the longer term. Also in terms of work-life balance, I find much of the literature has an instrumental perspective. Okay, how can we make sure that men and women are working, contributing to the tax base, to the insurance, and also engage in care, but it doesn't consider life and leisure. And of course, this should be factored in. And then we also know there are gender differences in leisure, where women in general feel that they have less time for leisure when they have small children. But the demand for time for leisure and for life has increased following the pandemic. It started before, but it has been reinforced then, when work as a form of identity formation is not as strong as previously. Although, of course, it is stronger among the well-educated, those who have very long educations, they identify very strongly with their work. So what can be done to foster equalization of men and women in work-life balance? And what, if any, lessons are there from the Nordic countries for South Korea? Next slide, please. Of course, I'm sure that you're familiar with this, but one policy is early childhood education and care. In this case, this is based on the chapter in the Policy Successes book I wrote with Trine Larsen. In Denmark, there has been a guarantee for childcare very early on. And the moment this guarantee was introduced, then the use of childcare became immediately widespread among rural urban areas, among different social classes. So it is universally used. It is not class-based use, also because it is affordable for all families. And we can see here when we look at the trends in all Nordics, that there has been an increase in provision and in use of childcare for also the very small children under 3-year-olds, also in the other Nordic countries. And the reason I say this also is because if women are away from work for the first 3 years of birth of the child, of course, everybody knows this, then there is a stronger likelihood that they stay away from the labor market. It's harder to reintegrate afterwards. And I know that in South Korea, there has also been a focus on ECEC. And so I've been thinking about, what can I possibly say which you don't already know? But perhaps some kind, because it's a dual system in South Korea with the private sector and the public sector. And if the private sector is viewed as most prestigious among potential parents, perhaps some kind of subsidy scheme should be introduced to enable all parents to have access to this, and then gradually crowd out the public one if the public one is not seen as being of equal prestige. I'm not sure politically this would be viable, but as long as there is the dual system, even if you have all the policies in place, if families, middle-class families, are mainly using the private sector provision, then of course the economic cost of childbearing is a big disincentive for childbearing among those who don't have the means. So this is why I bring up childcare as well. So this is one of the necessary but not sufficient conditions. You know, if you have childcare and you know your family in Korea, you can't afford it, you can send your child to this expensive childcare because you're getting a subsidy from the state if you cannot afford it. This could perhaps also, in addition to parental leave, to change something. I don't know. But anyway, this is why I bring this up. Okay, so and also in the European Union, there's a big focus on having childcare among all European countries. It's very different in terms of how it's evolving, but most countries are in fact have more and more provision of childcare for the small children because it's important for. It's an incentive for mothers to have children, or at least it means that it's not a disincentive for having children if there is childcare. Next slide, please. Okay, and I realize I'm talking, but a lot. If I'm short on time, just let me know. And when we look at Denmark, of course, like what was mentioned earlier, the Nordics are not perfect either. There are challenges in the Nordics. And in Denmark, what we saw during the years of the financial crisis was the public budget was constrained, which means that then the budget, which was distributed further down to the municipal level, was reduced. And then it was at the municipal level that they decided what cuts to be made. And so often one of the obvious cuts is reducing the number of personnel per reducing the number of personnel per children. And during the years of the or right after these years, then many parents were unsatisfied with childcare because they thought it was too busy and too stressful for the children. Next slide, please. This then led to a political movement by the Parents Association under a slogan called "Where is an adult?" Because of this perception that there were not enough adults in the ECEC institutions, and then in the last minority social democratic government by Mette Frederiksen, the government actually decided to have mandatory child-adult ratios of 3 to 1 for ECEC, so 1 adult per 3 children. And then after this, then in fact, the use of childcare has also increased again. So, but of course, there's still problems. Some of the staff aren't qualified. You don't have enough people wanting to do the pedagogue education and so on. So there are still lots of challenges, of course. But this was one of the regulatory instrument, a mandatory instrument to be implemented in all municipalities. So the next slide, please. Okay, and here this is just an indication that in the Nordics, financial reasons are a very marginal reason for not sending your child to childcare, and you can see that in these countries it's really not an issue. In some other countries it is, and then this could be associated with even lower fertility rates. But I don't know, someone has to do the regressions on that. But it's just to say that the financial economic burden of childbearing should not be underestimated. It's not just about parental leave policies. It's about the in the moment of family formation, the perception that it's a cost to have a child, and that this cost must be affordable for families, because otherwise people will not have children, in addition to women wanting to work and so on. And increasingly in Denmark, what we see is that it is the more resourceful families that have more children versus the poor families that don't. So this also means that having some kind of subsidy scheme for education could be in Korea could be some kind of policy solution. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, This I will just go through quickly, but the EU decided on a directive on work-life balance in 2019. And I've studied the implementation of this directive in 6 European countries, including Denmark. And we see there are big differences in the way it is implemented. Of course, the justification behind the directive is to decrease gender discrimination on the labor market and to enhance the active role of fathers in childcare. Next slide, please. And as we also know from the literature and has been said, the level of remuneration and non-transferability, these are central. So having a replacement rate, full wages or almost, and a leave scheme which cannot be transferred to another parent. These are key elements. And father's use of leave is higher among countries with non-transferable leave with remunerated leave. So next slide, please. Yes. Okay, and Denmark. So Sweden is like Iceland, it's a pioneer in parental leave for fathers, but Denmark was not. Denmark has been resisting having leave earmarked for fathers. So until 2022, they had it for a brief period, but then until 2022, there was no earmarked leave for fathers. Yet it is a country with high trade union density and collective bargaining coverage. And this means that if you have a leave policy, the employers and the unions are involved in designing it and implementing it and making sure it is actually used on the ground. In Denmark, the attitude towards the EU in the social area is negative. They don't want the EU to decide on EU social policy, but they had to implement this directive. Okay, go on. Yes, you recognize that? Yes, yes. Okay, so here, after the work-life balance directive, there are now for fathers, in addition to 10 days that were there previously, there are now 9 weeks of the total leave period, which are reserved for fathers, so use it or lose it, and with full payment for those covered by collective bargaining, with no ceiling. And so, in addition to that, societally, there's a high commitment to communication of new rights. It's been very debated politically. All the actors involved in the system wanted to make sure it works so that parents actually have access to it, so it's not complicated. So there's a user-friendly digital planning instrument integrated into the digital application procedure. Information campaigns, municipalities are organizing daddy groups for all dads. And the reason I say this is because I made this presentation some years ago to a group of civil servants from the Netherlands. And I said, yeah, the municipalities are organizing daddy groups. And they said, what are daddy groups? So they've never heard of it. So just to say that these extra initiatives, that they actually matter in terms of creating the societal acceptance of fathers on leave. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, and here what we see after the directive was implemented is that there has been a huge change, behavioral change among fathers. Previously, the educated fathers, they tended to take leave anyway, 2 to 3 months. They had the right to, but not the obligation. So the ones with longer educations took leave, while the ones with lower educations did not take so much leave. But now, because it is a use it or lose it, and because it's been societally integrated, fathers from all social classes take leave, and the distance between, in terms of take up of leave, between the educated fathers and the not so educated, less well educated fathers has decreased. So it's been a huge success, the work-life balance directive. Of course, there is always an irony in this, in the sense that the increase has been strongest among the trade unions that opposed it most. Of course, the blue collar workers, why would we want the EU to decide that whether we should take leave? But now that it's there, then all these fathers are actually using the leave schemes. And so we can see that the change was integrated into society, into the institutions, and so therefore this has then led to this behavioral change. Thank you. Next slide. I'm almost done. Policy lessons. So of course the design of policy is key for the use of either ECEC or parental leave across social classes. But it is a necessary and not sufficient condition, and it should be integrated within the political economy of welfare of a particular country. And in Korea, it's different. And so that's why I think that some kind of subsidy instrument could be considered. And so in Denmark, this works well, but it is in a context where institutions are strong. The public sector is the sole provider of ECEC. Unions and employer organizations, they collaborate to ensure there's acceptance of fathers to take leave. Municipalities provide structures for fathers to engage with each other during leave. And societal norms are gender equal. Even if I think it's not perfect, still, by comparative standards, it's still okay. And workplaces are used to enabling and accepting work-life balance, including parental leave and flexible work, which there is not in Korea. Okay, next slide, please. And then, of course, it's not possible for me to make this presentation without at least mentioning the fertility rates. This is the elephant in the room. So fertility rates in all advanced and middle economies are decreasing. And here Korea stands out in a crowd when you look at 1960 compared to the most recent, which is, I don't know if it's 2022, but in any case, what we see is that in all countries, fertility is decreasing. And this means that even in countries with defamiliarizing and degenderizing policies, fertility rates are in decline. So policy is a necessary but not sufficient condition to prevent fertility from falling too fast. I think economic insecurities and other insecurities play a significant role in decisions to have children. And now there are times of uncertainty with regards to the climate, with regards to military conflict. And so this may also play in. And then, of course, other factors are workplace culture, partly shaped by the sector and partly by the country. Okay, thank you for your attention. And then here you can see this is, I'll just 2 minutes a comment on my logo here for Agile Work-Life Balance. So here we can see I asked Copilot to create this for me. So okay, well, how am I going to make a logo for my project? Can you please make a logo on work-life balance? And then this, 2 minutes, and then it comes up like this. So what we see here is we see work, family, and then under here is the fundament, which is life. But the policy focuses on this. However, it would be a good idea to focus on a more holistic perspective and also to ensure that different kinds of leisure activities are available for all social groups. Yes, you can find out more about the project here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor de la Porta, for first informing us on some of the up-to-date research on the theme of work-life balance, as well as key issues in Nordic countries, and also providing rich details from the Danish case. And I think another important point that was made for Koreans to consider, at least, is not just think about parental leave, but also think about the cost and cost of childcare, yes, which is an important aspect. Okay, well, I would like to invite you to ask questions or comment on either of the presentations that were made in this session. Our first speaker from KWDI is also still connected. And so if you have any questions for her, please feel free to raise it here, raise your voice. May I first invite from the audience?
Yes, thank you very much for so fantastic.
Could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Marianne Danazza, and I work on area studies, in particular in research. And of course, I compare also what's happening in Nordic countries, but my focus has been Middle East, North Africa, but also in cooperation with a research team in Japan and in out of Central Asia and in Asia as such. So that's me. Anyhow, thank you very much for the two fantastic good presentations. And I have some questions. In Sweden, we have many single mothers. And as soon as you have single mothers, they cannot rely on the male regarding how to arrange the thing when they have children, small children. And this is a big problem. And recently we have gotten a new additional legislation regarding the possibility of grandmother, grandfather, another relative, or a friend could be paid for taking care of the kids. And that is a new thing in Sweden, but I think it is very important. When working hours were mentioned, and I also would like to know what is general working hours in South Korea, and also the informal, as you mentioned. Because here there are many in favor of 6 hours working time, and especially we have seen a group pushing very much for this, and that is nurses and people working at hospitals and so on. I say it's almost impossible to have a family life because they are working sometimes in the night, the day, in different parts of the day and so on. So how to organize a family life? If they cannot do it as a group and share and have shorter time. Well, I think I will, I want to see also put a question. The pandemic situation was very special and many people had to stay home and work. And that has, of course, an impact also of how we look at working, sitting in the office or sitting at home.
Exactly.
In the family life. So there is quite a different approach nowadays. And regarding the Nordic countries, especially if we look at Sweden, which have many immigrants, immigrants with other cultures and so on, it will probably have an impact in the first, maybe even second generation, or number of kids and attitudes to different things in the society, also regarding the male participations and so on. So that is some perspective we could have there. Well, I think I stopped that.
Thank you very much. I think one question was specifically targeted to the Korean speaker, something that came up also during the presentation. When you talk about long working hours in South Korea, I mean, how many hours are we talking about? And are we talking about hours in formal working, or do we include informal hours as well? Dr. Kim. What you said, long working hours in South Korea? I mean, how many hours are we talking about? And do we only count formal hours or informal hours as well?
Oh, that will be that will be not my my major, but I can share the statistics of OECD family database. Like, can I share my slides? Or she want to share?
Are you able to share?
Okay, let me try. Yes. You can see very long hours of Korea here. No, Korean. Oh, no, not this one.
But see, also here, yearly working hours, they're falling.
Falling.
That was, yeah.
Actually, Korea is the highest, has the longest working hours among OECD countries. But now some countries with longer hours join the OECD. So Korea is not the longest, but it's very longer than like this one. Oh, I cannot see it right now.
Can I answer?
Yes, yes, please.
Well,
This one.
in recently, maybe 2022, we have 1,900
Here.
hours per year. It seems pretty long, but problem is that we have so many self-employed in Korean economy compared to other nations. So, we see that the statistics is quite different from other nations. So, it's still pretty long, but it's not directly comparable with our nation's employees. So, is that
Yeah.
is that enough, or you need any more questions about
Yes.
working hours?
No, I think we're good for now. If we have, if we need something from the second round of questions, then maybe we can delve into it. And then the other part, with regarding single mothers, and the kind of the need for childcare, was there a specific question or yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know the extent which is also, it's a problem in Korea.
Is
or
it
not.
all?
I mean, that wasn't the question, but I mean, it would be
Yes,
interesting
it
to
is
compare.
both, it's both.
Yes, it's in both.
Go ahead.
Yes, with single mothers, also in Denmark now, it's possible with the revision of the parental leave system. If there is a single mother that doesn't have an active father involved, that the grandparents take part of the leave. So, and this is in line with this new reform that has been made following the EU directive. However, I would say in Denmark, when there's a very high divorce rate, so you have many single mothers, but you also have many single fathers. And fathers are also very involved in caring for their children, and there's lots of different sharing schemes. And in case where they're not, then it is in fact the grandmothers and grandfathers that can take some of the leave, if there's absolutely no father.
Wow.
But in most cases, there are fathers involved, and there's a very gender equal, to some extent, participation in caring for the children. But of course, single mothers are particularly vulnerable. But I would still say they are probably less vulnerable in Denmark and also in Sweden compared to in some other countries, even Germany, France, other countries. With the working week in Denmark, the official working week is 37 hours per week. And I saw on the OECD overview that was just shared that Denmark was towards the very bottom, and Korea was among the highest. So it really is an issue how much time people have at work and at home. With the immigrants, of course, these are the cultures are different, the norms, the gender roles are different, often more traditional. But after some generations, they assimilate as well, as you hinted at. In Denmark, the policy of the government is very assimilationist. So, so the early childhood education and care, even for the mothers who are at home, they actually want their children to go to ECEC, especially in what they call the ghetto. It's not really a ghetto, but anyway, that's what they call. They want the children to go to childcare. And of course, there are some challenges, but I think these are first generation, then second generation, third generation, then they're assimilated with the local culture, and the women are all getting educated and working. Of course, there can be challenges, but still, yes.
So could either President Kim or Dr. Eun-ji Kim discuss on the Korean case regarding either single mothers or people who are kind of not covered well, but a significant proportion when it comes to the existing parental leave scheme in South Korea?
In South Korea, the parental leave system is designed to provide higher benefits for single mothers, some part of leave. But you have to be employed to some companies with some scale. So, and Korean mothers do not divorce when the kids are very young. So actually the usage rate is very low, and there's no kind of formal statistics about single mothers' use of the parental leave. So we have the system, but we don't know how it's used.
Great, great, thank you. Can I, Anna was second.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Outreach Coordinator here at ISDP. I was just wondering about the amount of freelancers in South Korea. We were talking about it, that for them it's not easy with parental leave coverage, and so, and now that we looked at the statistics, it looks like there's a bigger amount of freelancers in South Korea. How big is that amount?
Would any speaker from South Korea be comfortable?
So can you
Yes.
please say it again? I couldn't hear that well. So what was the question?
Freelance, the proportion or the number of freelancers that we're talking about in South Korea, or people who are not part of the official employment market. What's the number are we talking about? What number are we talking about?
Can you answer, Eun-ji, or? Well, we have many numbers of irregular workers in Korea, especially among the Korean married women. I'm not quite sure the exact numbers right now, but I think more than 30% of employees, women employees among women might be irregular workers, which maybe those are not eligible for parental leave policies, or even if they are eligible, they really they might think that they are really hard to use the childcare parental leave benefits. I think that's another issue in Korea.
Great, thank you. Max and Nicholas.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. This was very educational for me. I have two questions. One is trying to look ahead. We know that there is a lot of rather significant changes going on in our respective labor markets, with freelancers, short kind of gig works, new type of employment systems where multinational companies demand that you're employed by a small company, and you have these kind of pools of employment and shorter employment. So what kind of significance and impact does that have on how we design the policies? Because some of the policy we do have is kind of constructed with a labor market that looks a little bit different. So that was my first question. And the second one is, I think, Caroline, you mentioned this about the importance of having childcare from very young age in order to improve the conditions for early return to the labor market. But as I understand, at least in Sweden, there's been some arguments from the medical profession that this is maybe not the best for a kid's medical kind of development. The immune system has been raised as an issue. So how do we balance this about improving the likelihood of returning back to the labor market and still providing for the best possible upbringing in the very, very early ages for our children?
Thank you. Very good questions. With the labor market, you're right. And I think it's also for Korea, there are some eligibility requirements. You have to have been employed at least 6 months or 12 months in your employment in order to be eligible. And so, of course, this creates a huge challenge for the solo self-employed. I would also say the pseudo self-employed, right? Working for a company, but actually set up as an own company via a 0-hour contract to save costs. All of the people, the riders, with the Walt and all of this. And so there is in fact a challenge to be able to capture these people and include them in parental leave systems. In Korea, I think this is across all advanced economies, you have this trend. But so far, the system is still built on the old labor market model, assuming people have full-time employment and with a clearly identifiable employer, which is not themselves. When the Danish parental leave system was being revised now in 2022, some political parties, they argued that also the self-employed should be included, but this was then not taken on board because of the expected economic constraint it would pose. But it is a problem. So then you create, in fact, a dual kind of labor market, which is not conducive. And this could perhaps even explain why there are differences in terms of the more resourceful people having more children and the ones on the fringes of the labor market not having as many children, because they don't have the same rights as the others. So this is a challenge to be addressed. And in terms of early childhood education and care, of course, this I don't know if it's, I'm not a doctor, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and of course the earlier the children are put in childcare, then there must be some flexible attachment to the labor market of the parents so that they can also engage with their children. I mean, in Denmark, it's not allowed to attend childcare before the age of 6 months. And the more educated mothers have their children in childcare earlier, and the not as educated a little bit later. On average, most parents, because they have 1 year of parental leave with full compensation, mothers and fathers, so in most cases they wait about a year. But I mean, I don't know what is the right, the golden moment. But of course, there's always trade-offs.
Yep.
Yeah. So yes.
So would any of the Korean speaker speak on this? Maybe not. To move on to the next question, and maybe we can come back. Nicholas, and then
Well, to Eunji, I mean, it was one thing I was struck with this together leave. So,
Yes, it's great. Yeah.
No, well, the question is it? Because exactly what Caroline said, it was that we see leisure time differently. mothers are more family oriented, fathers tend to be looking at the others. How effective is this? What is rationale behind it? Because I would assume, stereotypically now, that if that is a together leave, the mother would do most of the work, maybe not so much the father. So that would be, what call it, a vacation for the dad, and the mom would carry the bulk of the. So my question here is really, what is rationale behind this? And you know,
Yeah, that's a good.
for because in my experience, the fact that when well, now we're talking 20 years ago, and I realized how old my kids are, but the fact that I had to be at home, taking care about washing clothes, cleaning house, doing all this thing, gave me insights into the hard work it actually was. And if you have this dual system, it sort of defeats the purpose. I would.
Yeah.
But is it 6 + 6 successively or?
Together,
Or at the same
yes.
time, 6 + 6?
I think it can be either, but then let me invite Dr.
Yeah, no, because I understand that it could be done together.
Yeah, yeah,
And that defeats it. If it's one and then one, I understand.
yes.
It's exactly what we did.
So please, Dr. Kim, what's your view on this as an expert, 6 + 6 model?
That was right. That is right. But the policy goal is to get fathers to take it, even in that way. Just use the parental leave, even with your wife. Just come in. That's the goal.
Take part, basically, just
So
one
it's
step at a
taking
time.
part even if we know it's not gonna be
Equal sharing.
equal share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it just started last week. So we need to wait and see what happens.
What comes out of it in practice, we will have to
Right.
find out. Yeah.
Right, right.
I strongly recommend 6 + 6.
Yes, please.
No, because as a man, it was, you know, it was a welcome lesson,
Yes.
to be honest. I agree.
So here first and then.
Yes, so my name is Josephine Rasmussen. I am the project manager at the Career Center at ISDP. So my question is that in Denmark, we very much focus right now on the mental load. So when we look at the picture of work-life balance and from a gender lens, how do you perceive the mental load influences like men and women individually in South Korea and in Denmark? And how could you potentially improve this or try to tackle the mental load? Like Nicholas said, so it's not just work at home and work at the office. So you get this break, leisure time that was pointed out earlier as well. And I would like to hear both from Denmark and South Korea. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yes, on the mental load, it's true, there's been this debate. And it refers, in fact, to this fact that women are constantly involved in thinking about their children. Yeah, I don't really. I think there's also something about women daring to leave the mental load. I can't take care of this right now. I mean, to themselves also take steps to reduce the mental load. Of course, I recognize this myself. You're always having an eye to your own children and so on. But I think from a policy perspective, there's not so much that can be done. It's more within households, within families, that I think women also just have to say, well, now I'm going to go and do my reading club or my whatever people do, swimming or whatever they do. They just make space for leisure actively, so that because that reduces the mental load. Then they focus on their own autonomous activity rather than only the family-based care and leisure. So I think making their own time for that, I think is a way around. But this is just lame philosophy. Right? It's just my own personal view on that. But I think it's good to have that policy debate, but also that women should be aware of it, and men, of course, aware that women also need the time off. I think men are better at, making, taking time off mentally. But I don't know, maybe it's just a lot of, I mean, maybe it's just some prejudices I have. Yes, could be.
So the question is, what needs to be done to address the mental load of care, either policy-wise or at the personal level? Would any of the Korean speakers, Dr. Kim or President Kim, is there an acknowledgement when it comes to the mental load of care in South Korea?
Well, we had kind of program, EAP, employee assistant program in private phone level. It includes some kind of mental care system for mothers or fathers, but it's not very common. Well, I know that some of the biggest companies in Korea adopt those kind of programs for their employees, but it's not very common yet. So maybe we hope that those kind of programs will be more provided in Korean society.
Thank you. So one question?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much. My name is Lena Sund. I'm presently chair of an organization, Operation 1325, which works on the women, peace and security agenda. Previously, I was a diplomat and I worked inter alia on international issues regarding CSW. But my question really relate now to the childcare and the Korean situation. Because when women seriously started to enter the labor force, labor market in Sweden, there were certain obstacles that were abolished, but there were also incentives. And clearly childcare was, I think, absolutely a central element of that. So my question is really, what does it look like in Korea regarding childcare? Is it subsidized? Is it, etc.?
Yes. Yes. So, Dr. Eun-ji-Kim, could you give us some details about? You talked a lot about parental leave, but not as much about childcare. So, what does it look like in South Korea? The policies to support childcare in South Korea, the kind of issues that remain.
Actually, I have another set of presentation on childcare, but actually, childcare usage in Korea is very high. It's actually similar to Nordic countries because in Korea, free childcare is the policy. So you can use the daycare centers very low cost, and you can use kindergarten some cost. So you can see the 0 to 2-year-old children enrollment of childcare center is very low, like it's almost like Nordic countries. So I think that the quality of childcare center can be some problem in Korea, but the quantity is not the problem. So it's very universal, and many kids are on the center in Korea.
So it's cost free.
But it's not it's not linked to Korean women's employment. That's the problem.
So about childcare, is it
From which time to which time does this system go?
From which time,
Yeah,
meaning
Opening hours.
hours of
Yeah.
operation? What's the hours of operation for these childcare centers?
It's formally it's 12 hours, but but many kids are been there at 4 p.m. maybe, and then very small size of kids like mine is there, and many maybe 70% go back home at 4 p.m. But working mothers have to working mothers come back hour is like 7 p.m. So there's some gap between them, like 3 hours. So we need other arrangements on childcare. So that's the problem, and that's the problem of quality care occurs.
And then actually,
Yes, Caroline, you mentioned that some international companies, they bring these Nordic models and so on, and sometimes they modify them in order to get it adaptable to the culture and so on. And I will mention some examples, because all over the world, about 60% of the university students nowadays are women. And also so in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and so on. And many of them have extremely good results. So multinational companies would like to employ them. And then, especially if I have small kids or rather young and want to plan for family, they put up in the announcement about who they want to recruit. Very good if you have left the university, is a young woman, and they even have a woman who is dressed in the traditional clothes. We would like to employ you, and no problem with kids, because we have it at the workplace, the arrangement, and no problem with the transport, because we are picking up women and children, so I can stay all day long. And why do I want to employ women? Because the men, they come late, they go when they want, and so on. So that the women, they stay. Actually, it is, they misuse their freedom, the name of that society, you can say. And therefore, I'm not saying anything about Swedish men, it's in the culture. But it's quite interesting to see how ideas adapted to modern thinking. And that is also to encourage women when the family, in the traditional concept, doesn't want the young women, the mother, to work outside, stay outside. She doesn't need to work in the household. But anyhow, so they want to attract this fantastic group of nationals.
So this was a question or
comment? Yes, so the role of international or companies and then work-based, and of this also in the US, they have these, because in the public provision is very poor in the US. So instead, the companies which are big and resourceful, they also provide, care on site. So of course, this is a model, but then you create some kind of, stratification in society, those that don't have, but I think it's fantastic. It's a fantastic initiative, and it enables women then to work and have their kids close by. Yes, I was also interested to hear, Kim, your own experience. So that the fact that you have to be, so most children get picked up at 4, but you cannot be there before 7. I mean, in the Nordic countries, this is absolutely not conceivable that you are home as a woman or also as a man at 7. And okay, I'm home at like 5 or something, 5, 6, 7, no. And when the children were small, I would never be home at 7. So this also just suggests that there are expectations of being present in your workplace, which are more demanding than in the Nordic countries. Yes. It was just a comment.
I saw one hand up, so last question or no, it's okay?
Yeah, it's related, it's okay.
Okay, so maybe we can do it in the afternoon session. So thank you all so much for this fruitful discussion, and we look forward to continuing it after lunch.